you wouldn't have imagined that 10 years ago. It's a real testament to how the fans have grown the D&D community. The corporate side of things does so much, but fans do it, and companies like Beetle and Grimm's are right there at the forefront of elevating and pushing things along and keeping people together.
The episode was very fun, and I enjoyed how frustrated you all got before every single commercial break.
Yeah, it was one of those things where they tell you you're going to die, and you're like, no, I'm going to be the one that lives. And you feel like you can do it. You're going to pull it off, but no, it's definitely not in the cards for anybody. So yeah, we were really into it.
To be fair, you guys also got killed, I think, the most of anyone that was on the show, because it was like,
oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they were like, you're gonna go build a higher level, and then we prepped a lot of different things, so we weren't sure what we were going to be playing, and I thought maybe we were going to be surviving to get to a higher level or something, and then they just kept killing us.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what inspired your character, specifically the decision you made to play a cleric who actively hates their god?
I just thought that would be a fun contrast, to be burdened with something that is also your greatest ally, and to look at a gift like that as a hindrance. It's just like a reflection. I think when you have magic and you have gods and you have all this stuff in this world, you could still have a character who's got a cynical point of view on all these wonderful things. So you think everyone must be like, oh, I'm going to be very pious, and oh, I'm going to be very devout to the source of my magic, whatever. But there's probably still going to be disgruntled citizens out there that are burdened by this. Oh, all right, I got to pray to you. You're so annoying, it just seemed like a fun contrast, and I thought I'd be asking for the help of magic and a god a lot in this type of scenario. So it'd be fun to play somebody with like that type of deity relationship, and then to have like a dysfunctional one with that said deity.
When you all were bumped up to level 10, did you think, oh, this is our chance? Or was that the moment when you're like, oh no, we're in big trouble?
I was like, all right, this is a chance. I was like, maybe we're like the last episode and we're going to be the one group that survives. So I always felt there was a chance. And then, yeah, as soon as you figure out what you're fighting, you're like, oh God, they're just going to wreck us again. I probably should have went with something like half orc, who could have just bounced right back up with like some feature, and then they would have just killed me again. But at least it would have been like a quick false victory.
I mean, you kind of got that with the fact that you guys kept being brought back to life.
We did, but even more, if I could have done like a zealot barbarian and just messed with them a little more, so I could just keep making these saves and surviving, it would have been probably, that would have been my second choice, is doing something like a half orc zealot barbarian with all these things programmed in to just keep popping back up, and not being outright killed. That would have been funny.
Well, hopefully there's a season 2 and you can do that.
That's what I'm going to do.
And then you've been on the other side as well, because you're a producer on Heroes Feast, which I love that show. It's so much fun. So can you talk about...
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you talk about your experience with both shows and how that differed for you to be in front of the camera versus like a producer?
With Heroes Feast, it was a real passion project because we'd written the Heroes Feast book, and I had always dreamed of it being a show. So I had tried to get it going as a show prior to it all happening, and knew that this format could work. So it was great to be on set and filming these episodes, and, being in them with my co-authors as lore masters, also being a guest on the show. So we got to do a little bit of everything with Heroes Feast, which was special, and to see them kind of, it's called Heroes Feast, named after our book, to have them promote our book every episode, to give the books away as gifts. It was like a pretty incredible experience on every level. When you create something from nothing, and then there's this book out in the world and people discover it and people like it. And then we did a sequel book, and now we're working on other Heroes Feast related stuff. To have it translated into a show with Chef Mike and Sujata, it was just like, a dream come true. So it was awesome. Of course, it's always fun to show up on set and have no responsibility other than to just play, like Purple Worm. That was just a joy too. I love, especially anything with Matt. He's just a great guy and a great friend. And anytime he says, "Hey, are you interested in?" I just say yes. So both it was, and the teams were the same. The production teams overlapped. The directors, the producers, the crew, and that was also great that they created this little family and made these three shows and used the stage and became a little D&D hub. That was all great to be a part of that.
I love it. That actually is a perfect segue into my next question. Can you talk a little bit about working with the Beetle and Grimm's guys on Faster Purple Worm?
I met the team. I've known Matt for a bit. I met the team at the Stream of Many Eyes in Los Angeles, and we had a booth with Penguin and 10 Speed Press launching and promoting our pre-release on our book D&D Art and Arcana, which was a book on the history of Dungeons and Dragons. Next to us was in this little Waterdeep bazaar that they created was a booth for Beetle and Grimm's, and they were launching at the same time their first Platinum Edition box set. So I got to meet all those guys. It was great to see. Here's a group of friends that played together forever, and here they're doing a company and this venture together. And so I was there like day one when they introduced Beetle and Grimm's to the world, and then here we are years later. That was 2018, and here we are, 2023, and they have a series, and I'm a guest on it. So it's a great testament to D&D's community. There's a lot of people that come into the D&D world that become licensees or create products, and they're there because they love D&D and it means something to them. And you could tell from minute one when I met those guys that this was like a real Beetle and Grimm's was a passion project. And then here we are years later, and they're in the show and they're all helping make the show, and it's branded Beetle and Grimm's, and there's all these amazing people that have galvanized around Beetle and Grimm's and the D&D community at large, and they're coming on and being guests on these shows, and that's just great. That you wouldn't have imagined that 10 years ago. It's a real testament to how the fans have grown the D&D community. The corporate side of things does so much, but fans do it, and companies like Beetle and Grimm's are right there at the forefront of elevating and pushing things along and keeping people together.
And then what do you think they have brought to the actual play space with Faster Purple Worm that sets them apart from other shows? There's
something really fun about this. There's something unpredictable about it. Having a quick turnaround of cast is probably scary for some people. So the strength of this is the concept. It's that nobody's bigger than getting killed. everybody's up for grabs, and probably no one's going to survive. When you watch a normal script, like a streaming D&D series, actual play, it's about developing familiarity with these people. It's a slow burn. There's character development and evolution. And that is one way to express D&D, one way to play it. And they, with this show, showed there's a whole other way to have fun with the mechanics in the game of D&D. It doesn't have to be 900-hour long, 125 episode thing. It could be you get people together and they have fun for an hour, and that's what it is. There's so many different ways to play D&D, and it has that one-shot vibe.
Yeah,
and it's very madcap, bonkers, unpredictable, brutal, hilarious, and those are things that have become synonymous, I think, a lot with fifth edition. And so it's a really good iteration of that. And so, yeah, I think it's a breath of fresh air in a space where I feel like a lot of the shows are they all probably feel very similar.
For you as a player, what about this experience set it apart from your other D&D experiences, and what do you want to take away into your future projects?
I mean, I just like the freedom that this was. Is as constricting as it was knowing you're going to die, there is just a freedom to try and do and say anything. You can't be precious about your character. You're not waiting for the right moment of dialogue, or you're figuring out your character backstory. You're just in there trying to entertain, trying to survive. And I like the immediacy of it. It wasn't some long-term plan thing. It was just like, go have fun. For all the other stuff is there, it can add dimension, but first and foremost, go have fun. And I love that that's what this game stands for. It's people getting together. A lot of times you don't know each other, and you immediately form a bond. You have to form a bond in 5 minutes, and you immediately form a type of communication between each other, camaraderie, and you're all just trying to survive. And I like that. And I think that's exciting. I mean, it just shows there's another way to go about D&D. I want to bring that to games, even if it's a long campaign. I think bringing some of that immediacy helps, keeps the table alive. It keeps everybody off their phones and focused.
That's definitely a difficulty nowadays.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Fast Purple Worm is that kind of like epilogue that we get where every character has kind of their final words after their death. And with your character, what stood out to me is you wanted him to be remembered for his defiance. So why was that kind of the aspect of your character that you locked onto after playing them for an hour?
I think it resulted from his relationship to, his cleric god. I think it was also the defiance of the way I wanted to be, like, I'm not dying, no matter what. I'm not dying. Like, just no matter how much the world's telling you this is going to happen, or the facts are telling you this, or the situation you're faced with, the only thing that he could do was be defiant in that. And I think that's, when you're trying to survive, I think that's what you need. You need a level of defiance. Maybe it's foolhardy, maybe it's naive, but if that's all you have at your disposal, and you're just going to keep going, then the defiance is probably got to become the theme of your life. It's about survival. So
you've really looked into the history of D&D. You have that book, you have the documentary coming out. What is it to you that kind of Faster Purple Worm brings to the space that you think almost elevates it in a way where it's like, this is something that we haven't really had in the D&D space to the degree that we do now?
Yeah, I think, well, people have gotten accustomed to and familiar with, the 2 to 5 hour streaming show. Mm-hmm. That's not for everybody. I'll watch them. It's hard to watch them religiously because they're so long, but I'll get in, I'll go on runs with different shows and I try and get into it. But it's a really hard thing to sustain. And it shouldn't be the only way that D&D is expressed when it comes to actual play. And so I think this is doesn't have to be a template, but I think it's an example for people to say, think outside the box, make a consumable piece of entertainment that's 30 to 60 minutes, that's akin to formats people are familiar with. And then you can grow D&D into spaces that you're not expecting. Because right now, if you're trying to get somebody to go, like, what's a streaming show? Explain it to me. And you're like, oh, you watch for 4 hours. And, people are going to be like, what? How do you have time for that? Like, a lot of people do it in the background or whatever. Some people have to listen to it in podcast form, and they do it on, 1.25 speed or whatever it is. How to get through all this. It's a lot of content.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be the only way that D&D and RPGs can be experienced and consumed as entertainment. And so this is a great way. This is a great example for people to say, you know what, like, yeah, here's something that works. They got all these great people on. Every show is exciting. Every show has fun. Every show has drama. It fits this cool little hook where everyone's still going to die and you recycle the cast. And I just feel like it was a really energetic and fresh template for people who out there go, I can go make use D&D to tell another type of story or piece of entertainment. And I think that's what they've shown you can do. I mean, I had a total blast coming on, and the energy's all in the right place. It feels like, whose line is it anyway, or whatever, type.
Yeah.
There's just a turnaround to it, which is, unexpected and unparalleled. Like, I really thought it was a cool hook for a show that then worked. When I got to set, I was like, oh, I get it. This is awesome. I wasn't seeing totally what they're saying, but now I get it, why it's going to work. So yeah, I think it's like a new entry into what's possible with D&D.
And I'm curious, because you're basically like, you have become such an expert in D&D. What is it about D&D as a storytelling platform that really like connects with you compared to other storytelling styles?
Well, a lot of storytelling styles, like I do screenwriting and other types of writing, and once you start down a road, it's finite. You sit down and you map out your beginning, middle, and end, and you start fleshing it out. And you have your Christmas tree and you're putting ornaments on your tree, but you know where it's going. Um, with D&D, you find these underpinning ideas and themes or things you want to explore as a character, and you're the author of that. You bring that to the table, and then you go into this space that's collaboration, camaraderie. It's like a circus of ideas, and you're balancing all these different people. Everyone gets their chance in the center ring, and it's its own new art form, where it's not like traditional storytelling in any way, yet it still borrows from all the traditional storytelling. And so D&D, when it emerged in 1974, evolved into this new American art form that became a global art form. And I think that's what this collaborative storytelling is. That's what RPGs have become. And it's this extension of wargaming and tabletop and just hanging out. It's almost like and why we did Heroes Feast, because you're already sharing the tabletop. You're already spending 4 hours together. You become a family. You're invariably going to have food, so you might as well have good food that's themed to your game. And I think it's all those elements. We're all seeking these extra levels of immersion, and we all commit to this philosophy of immersion and try to be there with each other and to make the world we're co-constructing be as valid and grounded and truthful as possible. So I think that's like D&D is just a really unique, special game. I hope everyone gets a chance to try it or at least experience it and watch it. Watching a show like Professor Purpleworm, you're going to go, oh, that's all it is I just go have fun. Were there all these taboos in this game? Why was this game so misunderstood? When you look at it like that, you realize the farce of it all, about what the game went through and its struggles. But yeah, it's its own special, unique thing. It's not like a computer game. It's truly open-ended. There's no digital barrier to it somewhere that you're going to run into. You can do and say and go and experience whatever, and you have that autonomy. That's pretty damn rare in this world, and especially in the digital gaming landscape, where everything it really does, force you down a tunnel. You don't realize it, but you're being shepherded into these little places. This is truly open.
I love that. Well, on that note, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This episode is so much fun. And like I said, the frustration that grows with every commercial break is just so much fun to watch.
That's good. I can't wait to see it. I haven't seen the final. I mean, it was fun while we were filming it, so I can only imagine that they did a great job capturing all the highlights out of that. So it's going to be good, I'm sure.
Definitely is. Thank you.